My name is Tyrone Williams. I am the head of security employed upon box station NX167. Shift starts like any normal shift. I grab my equipment, and some head of securities decide they don't want their submachine gun, but I figured if it's on the table for a reason, not in a locker, it was probably meant for me to grab it. So, I take the submachine gun with me. First few minutes are rather uneventful, and to be truthful, the whole shift, for me specifically, was pretty uneventful. I noticed there were some cadets in the roster, so I asked them if they want some training, and neither one of them really reached out to me, and, well, I don't get this on footage, but one of the cadets decided that at some point they were going to take their pistol into maintenance, murder somebody, and try to loot their body, and yes, they did not survive this one. They got banned for that. About 6 minutes in, I notice a very pressing issue. We don't have a captain, and the hop hasn't stepped up. And I try to gently remind that we need a captain, and that the hop is supposed to be one to traditionally do it. The hop makes an announcement that we don't have a captain, please vote for one, and I think that's a mistake. Asking random people in 5 minutes into a shift to vote for the captain is how disaster starts, and overall, we ended up pivoting back towards actually commanding the station, and we ended up getting the head of personnel to step up and become the captain, and really that was uneventful. I then do my first real duty to the station as the head of security. A blind person was bumping into the side of the bridge, and I noticed they were blind because of their little cane, and I just brought them to cargo, and that was that. That was my first real duty to the station. I'm then informed of apparently a clown trying to sell fries in front of security, and I honestly really couldn't understand what my security officer is telling me. Some of the accents are just really hard to understand, especially when you start mixing accents. So, like, in this example, they have the archaic lizard accent, so certain words just became really difficult for me to understand, and also I just didn't really get the context. So I head over to security, and I noticed that there's a clown who is trying to sell fries, and apparently one of the officers decided to shoot him with a non-lethal bullet, and I try to rein in security, saying, we're not really here to mess around. Don't shoot people, even with a non-lethal bullet, for no reason, because that gives a really bad impression to the station. I think putting my foot down this early probably did help the rest of the shift. I then see the cadet that ends up murdering somebody just walking the hall with their gun in their hand, and I probably should have took this as a red flag, but they did listen to me about putting the gun away, so, like, there's not too much personal difference I could have done in order to train this cadet. It's really hard for the head of security themselves to be training cadets, because, I mean, I'm the head of security. I have to be managing more than just my department. I have to be managing command, I have to be just, it's a lot of work. We get a radio report that, is all of Psy dead? What's going on in here? I'm tapped. Well, I'm assuming they meant trapped. Help. So, I just said, well, let's go to science. And we get there, and there was a lot of officers there. Like, basically the entirety of security showed up, which I thought was rather interesting. And this led nowhere, again. At this point, we haven't had a confirmed syndicate threat. We are a half hour in, and this is a syndicate shift. The only antagonistic behavior we've seen is two people who just habitually like slipping sec, and that's just something that happens every shift, so really nothing's happened, and we've just gotten a ton of false reports. I then get reports of one of my cadets, another cadet, who is apparently threatening to fight somebody, and I basically just was playing Cadet Wrangler. This time I actually did believe the cadet, though. The reality was, it was basically just a conversation taken out of context, and people really like to jump over security for being shitsec, and this, again, led nowhere. We then get a case of a research assistant, who, again, cannot be a traitor, so once again, no syndicate activity. who broke into the security checkpoint and stole security gear. And I went and confirmed it, and yes, we never got DNA proof that they broke into it, but there was a science backpack left on the ground, and it broke it into a security locker. It was left unlocked, though, so it's not entirely, like, they didn't entirely break in, but they got in somehow, and I don't know the full story. We then get a little interesting roleplay scenario, and one that I think is worth including. There's a mime who was testing out a practice laser and just doing some roleplay that they were trying to adjust it into an actual laser weapon, and I let them into the shooting range, and I encouraged the security cadets and officers to get reacquainted with their firearms, practice some rounds downrange, and it was just a fun little roleplay scenario. I was investigating why we had somebody in jail for more than 10 minutes, which is A, against the rules, and B, it was a confusing situation, so like I don't think anyone was intentionally trying to break the rules here. But then an explosion happens right out front, and somebody bombed the clown. Here's the fun thing, though. This was, again, not a syndicate activity. Somebody was self-intagging and making flashlight bombs. And two non-intags, who just harass Sec basically the entire shift, just run around, slipping us constantly with soap bars. It didn't really lead anywhere, thankfully, because it was a non-intag. They didn't escalate further, but this person, again, as far as I'm aware, was banned for what they did. So, 52 minutes into the shift, and not a single confirmed syndicate activity, only self-intags. I bring the clown to medical. He tells me that it was a flashlight bomb, and that's what led to the rest of the confirmation. I then make an announcement to tell people to stop using batteries because, well, there's no way to really know if a battery is going to explode on you or not, so until we could get to the extent of how many batteries there were, I put us on blue alert for it. I take a minute over an hour into the shift to just sit back and relax and listen to some music. Again, there has not really been any syndicate activity on the station, at least none that we saw. I'm pretty sure almost all the syndicate activity happened in maintenance, but we just never really found it. It was also about an hour and 10 minutes into the shift that I just realized that I don't have a pinpointer, and it's not like you need a pinpointer, but I was thinking we have an unofficial captain who is now basically the captain because we never got a captain. That really just resulted in me getting a pinpointer, never had to use it. I then come back to see the warden training cadets and a newer officer, and I really enjoyed this. I wanted to stay, but I was again called to unlock some weapons. The salvage team lost everyone on an expedition, and I figured it was fine to reprove them firearms, which was in the form of lasers. And then, finally, an hour and 16 minutes into the shift, the first real action happens. There is reports of carp attacking the station, and I leave security and see carp meat on the ground and blood everywhere. So I'm like, alright, well, my first priority is to go to arrivals, and somebody was also mentioning arrivals in the radio channel. I go there, I see dead carp, bullets on the ground, and a dead passenger. And my first and primary goal as a security officer, especially the head of security, is to ensure the safety of the crew. We put down a carp pretty quickly without any actual problem. I try to conserve some bullets. It's not like I really have to, but I'd rather not accidentally hit something I don't need to do. I use this as a time to tell officers to equip better guns because I expected significantly more carp and more threat. And I'm pretty sure this was actually a syndicate activity, but I was also told that it was an artifact, so I don't know. I don't think it could have been an artifact. I think it was too many carp. So I think this might have been the one confirmed syndicate activity I did see. I take the guy to med, and on my way to med, I make an announcement to protect yourselves from the carp. And as I'm about to drag him to med, I see a holocarp, and holocarp are dangerous. Can't shoot them, and this is too crowded of a hallway, so the only thing I could think to do was pull out my combat knife and try to get some swings in. I took a few bites, so did another security officer, and unfortunately a musician went down, but it's better us getting cut up and bit than a more innocent people. I then notice a suspect. There's a naked man with no ID with a fire hat, and bananium peels with boxing gloves just running around punching people and no ID. We throw him in jail for 10 minutes, and nothing really happens at this point. I was told that a scientist was being irresponsible with an artifact. However, it's kind of hard for security to tell a scientist they're not doing their job, especially when I haven't actually seen them move the artifact into public. And I just had to take him at his word and just kind of let him go. A giant spider invasion happened, which was not Syndicate related. I pull out my standard issue WT machine gun and I assist an officer in killing one spider. And then I then see another one in the EVA room, but I don't have access to that room for whatever reason, so I can't go in and deal with it. So I head around towards arrivals. I then go back to security after I head to arrivals and found nothing, and I see the guy broke out of jail. And his name was Johnny Sussman, and this was the naked guy from earlier. However, I didn't realize he was actually just let go, and I chase him, and I'll admit I severely failed to actually deal with him, and due to my failure, he slipped me with a Syndicate bar of soap, which he must have purchased, because he was actually a Syndicate agent, and I got attacked by spiders as I got slipped. So I used this time to just let him go, and I figured, alright, it is a bigger threat to the station right now to shoot these spiders than have to chase down somebody who may or may not be a Syndicate. I didn't really have a confirmation, and that was, again, the end of that. I never saw him again, and he did indeed complete his objective, which was to kill people, but so many people are dying randomly this shift. I don't know if he actually did it, or they just met their own fate, or just didn't make it on the shuttle. I am not sure. The rest of the shift kind of went nowhere for security. This was about an hour and 40 minutes in, and the warden brings up that an officer wasn't on the manifest, which is really weird because they were on the manifest at one point. I don't know why their name got deleted off the manifest, but they were indeed a real security officer. They were not a Syndicate agent. They weren't some random guy. For a good reason, freaked the warden out, and I just, in my mind, I figured it was a bug. I have no idea how they got deleted off the manifest. I didn't know it was possible. An hour and 52 minutes into the shift, there was apparently a singular report of a C4 bombing the bridge, and I did confirm, yeah, there was a hole in the bridge. We did a shuttle call. So I went to the bar with the captain to celebrate before the shuttle actually arrived, and the mime was saying they were having issues with the vape and it wasn't working, so I said, here, hand it to me, I'm good at vaping, and yeah, they didn't put water in it and it exploded. And they were trying to do a prank with the laser gun from earlier, and I guess they just weren't able to get it to work, and a little bit of an explosion, which is pretty funny. To end this story, we go to the shuttle, and as it always turns out, we make a joke saying that really it was calm, and as soon as we said that, somebody starts a massive plasma fire on the shuttle. I don't know if it was a Syndicate, I think it was, and I really couldn't stop anyone. It was just too chaotic. I didn't directly see who was doing anything. I mean, I saw the guy in the bomb suit do it, but at this point I was already in orange state health, on fire, too hot, with no hard suit, dying from overpressure. The best I probably could have done was gun him down, but I made the split-second decision that I was just going to let people into the little security outpost to try to save as many lives as possible rather than try to take one more. And I think me dragging them into this area helped a lot because the hollow barrier kind of prevented the high pressure. And overall, I think by dragging in 3 or 4 people might have just been overall better for the station than... And I barely made it alive to the Syndicate screen, and I scrolled through it, and most of the things that happened were hard to prevent. There's mainly people getting killed or marooned, and like, since that's a thing now, I don't know if they died. They might have just been AFK. There's a good chance they were just AFK. And it was a pretty relaxed shift.
And I hope I made a good example of a head of security that tries to keep their officers in line. I'm not the greatest at combat in this game, I fully admit that, but I tried to focus on protecting the crew rather than winning against the Syndicate.